In today's video, we're going to be having a look at Australian monetary policy. We're also going to be looking at what's going on with the European stimulus package, and from there, a quick chat about a vaccine. Hello and welcome to another ACY Securities Market Update. My name is Alistair Schultz and I'm going to be your host through today's trading journey. Now, the first thing I'm going to be covering off today is about what's happened from the Reserve Bank of Australia and what the Governor has said there. Governor Lowe has talked about the idea of possibly lowering the cash rate by about 10 basis points. Currently, we're sitting at 0.25%. This means it would drop down to 0.15% should he act through with it. Now, he hasn't specified an exact timeline, but you can be rest assured that if he is saying, I'm going to be planning on doing this and we may need to do it, it's probably in the short to medium term, meaning before the end of this year in my mind. Now, the other update that came from that was what the Reserve Bank's balance sheet was. We saw an increase of $100 billion towards a $280 billion mark. He's urged for more borrowing to improve consumer spending across Australia, trying to ease the amount of people that are actually getting loans and also easing how much it costs to get a loan. Now, from here, we're expecting to see unemployment rise further. At least that's what the RBA's expectations are. Currently, the actual unemployment rate is approximately 11.3%, though what the figures really say from the ABS are that they are closer to the 7% range. Naturally, there is always an actual versus what the current expectation actually is. So keep an eye on those sort of figures. They are likely to get worse, at least that's what the RBA is saying for now. Now, having a look, we have been talking about what's been going on with European stimulus over the last week. Now, there has been a number of elements going on. They've been butting heads about what's going on with the money, where it's going to get allocated, how much it's really going to be, do they need it all? All of these things have been questions that are coming up. Today, they have reached some level of an agreement that is close to the 750 billion euros that was initially planned. At this point, they're talking about $390 billion being going towards grants and another $360 billion going towards low interest loans. The euro dollar had a mild run down at the onset of this news. And it has been something that's been sitting stagnant, it's been going up and down, up and down, up and down, all the way through as to whether this package was going to get pulled together. So the next thing that I'm going to be watching when it comes to this stimulus package is what's going to happen with the 10-year Italian bonds and their yields and in comparison to the German Bund spread. So we want to keep an eye on that. You are able to find one that is literally the BPT versus the German Bunds and have a look at their 10-year spreads. But either way, I'm interested to see what sort of happens. Usually, traditionally in the past, anytime you see quantitative easing or some level of monetary policy, such as interest rate changes over the last decade, we have seen an effect on the bond market. The bond market has really been looked at, especially in Germany's case, as a little bit of a safe haven. So at the moment, when you're getting the guaranteed support of further stimulus, which means more bonds being purchased through government purchase programs, then the chances are that perhaps we might see some yields changing on the Italian side, meaning that there is a better risk premium to go towards on that front. Now, moving forward, it'll be something to have a look at over the next coming days and how it transpires. Naturally, we haven't seen the cash injection yet, so it might take a little bit for that to happen. But so far, it looks like the euro dollar is starting to price it in. Now, having a look at Singapore. Singapore has now got two viruses that they are fighting. The first one is obviously coronavirus, which has been ongoing for some time, but dengue fever cases are now on the rise. At this point, they have 1,736 infections in the last week, which is the highest they've ever recorded. And at this point, they're expecting to beat the 2013 high point and reach past 22,000 infections in a very short period of time for 2020. Now, all of this while still trying to fight COVID-19, which is obviously very active around the globe and still active in Singapore. So hopefully they do get a good result and they can all be well and healthy pretty soon. Moving on from there, when it comes to the vaccine, we've heard of a couple of different companies about their vaccine achievements and where they're going with it. Quite often we see positive news and it comes up, and then immediately after we see a little bit of data assessment and it comes back down again. This has been no different. AstraZeneca has offered showing a vaccine of data which shows positive results. Now, the increased neutralizing antibody count is what they've looked at, and they've seen increased immune T cells. Now, for those of you who might not know about medical side of things or might not know as much as me, or perhaps you might know more than me and would like to correct me on some of these things if you do watch the video. But from what I'm aware of is that the neutralizing antibody is really there to help fight the virus, while the T cells are kind of like the memory cells. They allow you to memorize what the virus was like, at least in layman's terms as it is. So that is some good news, but the other side of this is that they haven't got a full spread of data that has really enabled us to get a good sample size to see how effective it's going to be. There is more testing to be done. Now, the other factor to look at here when it comes, if you're thinking about purchasing AstraZeneca shares, is how many other projects are there right now that are looking at developing vaccines? Well, we have CanSino Biologics, we have Pfizer and BioNTech who are working together. We also have Moderna Incorporated. So there are a number of different vaccines on the market right now, and whoever's product comes first to the table and is shown to be effective is likely to be the one to go for. So it's anybody's guess as to which one's going to win the race right now, considering the other countries are quite well advanced, or the other companies, I should say, are quite well advanced as well. So hopefully we do see a vaccine come along, but again, we haven't had one for 20 years. Perhaps it might be a little bit too early to say that there is definitely one without any results so far. Moving on, I'm going to have a look at what I'm watching tonight. Now tonight there's going to be Canadian retail sales. We're also going to have a Swiss trade balance report. And as always, I do love looking at the New Zealand Dairy Trade Index. New Zealand being a primary exporter of dairy products, they do get affected via the value of the dairy trade. And that includes on their GDP figures and the currency valuation. So if you do like trading the New Zealand dollar, this is a good place for you to have a look at to see how prices change based off the dairy trade index. Otherwise, that's all I really have for you today. If there's anything that you'd like to get in contact with me about, perhaps you'd like to let me know if I've gotten the idea of the medical side correct, feel free to shoot me an email at talktoal@acy.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so you can get more great content from me and ACY Securities in the future. Have a great trading day ahead.